Here's our agenda for the day. We'll be having opening remarks from our young professionals president. Then there'll be a safety brief and quick introduction of our facilitator. Then the facilitator will give us a webinar presentation on the aforementioned topic. Then there'll be a quiz session, so let's try and listen in and listen properly, as there'll be gifts to be shared. Then we'll have our question and answer session afterwards. Then there'll be a vote of thanks, announcements, and closing remarks. So I'll be inviting our president in person of Mr. Shion Ogedinpe for opening remarks. Mr. Shion, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Samuel. Can you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, for those of us that are on this part of the world, and to every other person, depending on what time zone you are in, we bring you greetings on behalf of the 2025-2026 executives of the NAPE YP. I want to officially welcome you all to this April technical series, which will be delivered by Mr. Chinazo Francis Ejeke, a senior geomodeler from Asharami Energy. He'll be speaking to the topic Static Model QC, Tips for Best Practices. And I know that as geoscientists, as explorationists, building a static model is one of the key skills, is one of the key steps that is needed in order for us to explore, to develop, and then to produce our assets from our hydrocarbon fields. And on that note, I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for creating time to join this session. I want you to sit back, relax, get your notes, get your pen, because it would be an insightful session. I welcome you once again and thank you for creating time. And then again, thank you to our speaker, even though so that it doesn't sound like a vote of thanks. I know it's been very busy to get him to present to us, to share this topic with us. I really want to say thank you to our speaker for today. And then thanks again to someone very, very, very key to the NAPE YP. I mean, in person of Dr. David Anomnese, who has been very instrumental to this session. Thank you. I welcome you all once again, and I wish us all a very insightful session. Over to you, Samuel.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Without any further delay, we'll be moving on to the safety brief for the day. So before we start our session, to have a productive and comfortable session, let's all remember, one, we need to dim our screens. The session is going to last for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. So we know how dangerous bright screens can be to the eyes. So let's try to dim our screens. Then let's also follow the 20-20 rule, meaning every 20 minutes, let's try to look 20 feet away for 20 seconds. This to help the retina and the eyes gain balance and get acclimatized to the environment. Then physical comfort. Let's sit upright. Let's look at our screen. Let's maintain an angle 90 with our screen. For those of us using our laptops and those of you using your phones, try not to endanger your body and your necks. Then let's take short breaks. Let's try to walk around while still listening into the meeting, because every moment is very important. Then please, if you are not speaking or you are not asked to speak, please let's mute our mic. This to allow our facilitator to have a smooth flow while speaking. And if you have any questions during the session, please drop it in the chat box. It will be attended to after the session. Drop your message or note it down. If you want to ask personally, you can note it down and wait till the end of the session for the Q&A segment of this program. Let's also remember to stay hydrated, get water, a glass of water, a bottle of water, or sachet water, keep it around you. And finally, let's have our devices properly plugged in and charging so you don't miss any part of this session. Let's all do this together and we'll have a great session. Now we'll be moving on to introduction of our facilitator. Our facilitator for today is Mr. Chinazo Francis Ejeke. And Mr. Chinazo Francis Ejeke is a seasoned geoscientist with over 15 years of experience in asset evaluation and field development, demonstrating with expertise in reservoir characterization, seismic interpretation, 3D modeling, and uncertainty analysis. Mr. Francis has a proven track record of delivering results, fostering collaboration, and mentoring teams. His experience includes roles at Ashwani Energy and Flow Grids Nigeria Limited, where he contributed to reservoir modeling, field development plans, and project management, along with research at Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria. Mr. Francis is a member of several professional associations, which includes Society of Petroleum Engineers, Society of Exploration Geophysicists, American Association of Petroleum Geoscientists, Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, and Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. He is dedicated to continuous learning and enjoys swimming in his free time. Good morning, Mr. Francis.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
All right, sir. You have the floor, sir.
Give me a minute. Please confirm I can share.
I can barely hear you, sir.
Confirm I
we
can
can
share.
hear you. We can see your screen.
Okay. All right. Okay. Give me a second. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. Apologies. So thank you, Samuel. Thank you, everyone on the call. Please confirm I'm still audible. All right. All right. All right. Oh, well, thank you, everyone, for being here. We are going to look at static model QC tips for best practices. We'll understand the importance of model, one form of or the other of model in every stage of field development. That can be overemphasized. In building the model, we need to be very careful. Take all the QC we can in order to be able to get out a fit for purpose model at the end of the day. So this presentation is going to take us through a few examples of quality QC in static modeling, and it's going to be a refresher for some of us who do this almost on a daily basis. I hope at the end of the day, we all leave the presentation with something to lead us as we model from now going forward. So let's get into it. Okay. All right. Presentation outline will take us through our introduction, a few of the QC methods, data QC, structural model QC, and then we'll spend a bit more time in property model QC. We'll look at documentation as also part of the best practices increasing models, static models, and then we'll take our conclusions. I hope we can all see the slides change.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, sir.
Good. That's great. Okay. So reservoir static modeling quality control it practically involves a set of guidelines written or unwritten and procedures to ensure that accuracy and reliable of static of the accuracy and reliability of static models. So why do we do a static model QC? I mean, the primary goal is essentially to ensure that the static models we produce accurately represent subsurface geology and the properties. And to achieve this, generally, this involves creating detailed and precise models that will reflect the true nature of the geological formations and also their characteristics. So an accurate model is crucial for making informed decisions in exploration and production activities. So why exactly does this matter? This is essential because it helps us to identify errors early in the modeling process. When we catch these mistakes early, QC will then improve the reliability of the models and build confidence in our final results. Because reliable models are fundamental for planning, of course, and executing even successful drillings and production operations. So what about the impact? A poor QC can have very significant negative consequences. It can lead to an incorrect reservoir calculation, volume calculation, which will affect the estimation of hydrocarbon volumes. Misplaced wells can result from that, and this can lead to very costly drilling errors. Also, inaccurate simulations can misguide production strategies, even cause inefficient and financial losses. So we understand that QC as a process is very, very critical in order for us to get a fit for purpose model. Now let's go over to the types of QC method. And right off the bat, so I want to say that this is in no way exhaustive for QC method. Like I said, this can be documented or undocumented, but here is just a guide for some of us that have not started to start, and then for some of us that are already in the business, to have a refresher. QC can be by visual inspection. I mean, manually examining geological models will identify obvious errors. And these steps will generally involve visually inspecting the model to spot discrepancies or anomalies in the representation of geological structure and formations. This is a crucial initial check to ensure model accurately reflects the subsurface geology. We can also have statistical analysis, and by applying statistical tools, we can detect anomalies in geological data. Statistical data analysis will then help us to identify outliers and patterns that deviate from expected geological properties. This method will also ensure that data used in the model is robust, reliable, and thereby helping to enhance the accuracy of the geologic representation. We can also do QC by cross-validation, comparing the model outputs with independent geological data sets. This involves using separate data sets, to verify the model accuracies. This method will confirm that the model prediction will align with real-world geological observations and measurements, thereby ensuring the reliability of the model. We can also do QC by consistency checks and ensure the coherence of the model across different components of the geological model. Consistency checks involves verifying that all parts of the model, including the geological features, properties, and boundaries, logically integrate and are consistent with each other, which is essential in maintaining the integrity of the geological representations. So to start, of course, a static model, first thing you will need is your input data. So it is very, very necessary that you take a look at your data and analyze your data. The output of the model is guided by the data you have, the time you have, and also the purpose of your model. So that means that data is very, very critical in order for you to achieve your end goal. Now, because data QC analysis is one of the first things you start with presentation in a model. Let's take a quick look at some of the data QC that can be done. And some of them will include data distribution analysis, and that will include histograms and PP plots. By analyzing the distribution of geological data to ensure its accuracy and reliability. This is what we do in histogram and PP plots, and it involves using tools like histogram and plots to visualize the data. The key checks for this type of analysis, identifying outliers, that is data points that will deviate significantly from the rest of the data sets and will be an indication of error or even a unique geological feature. We can also have multimodal distributions, detecting multiple peaks in the data distribution, suggesting the presence of different geological formations or properties. We can also do data transformation by assessing how transformations impact the data distribution and ensure that this transformation enhance the model accuracy. One can also do spatial distributory checks on the data, and that involves variogram analysis and validation. We analyze a spatial correlation of the data points to ensure consistency. We can also generate data density maps. I mean, visualize the data density, know where you have most of your data, understand the impacts of distributing those data from those data dense to where you have paucity of data in your map. You should be able to understand the impact, understand the issues that may arise by distributing that such. All this helps you to understand your static model, understand your output, and also understand the limitations of what you produce. And that helps you to be able to plan the uncertainties that you are going to take forward into your model, and then report at the end of the process. So let's dive into structural model QC. So generally, the process of building a static model, you start with the structural model, then you go in with the stratigraphic, and then you distribute your properties. So just take a look at a few of the steps that one can take in order to ensure the accuracy of a structural model. This can be done. Let me get my pointer. Okay, this can be done by visual inspection. This will normally involve manually examining the geological model to identify obvious errors. And key techniques in doing that involves a cross-sectional views, maybe perpendicular to the fault plane. The diagram we have on the top shows a cross-section through a structural model. Now, notice the well point. So you have two well points on the cross-section. So you can see the thickness for the well on the far right. You can see the thickness of the reservoir, and the well on the far left, you can see the thickness, which shows a big difference between the thickness. Now, these two well points gives you a data point in order to control this thickness. Now, this variation in between these two well points is something that should pop in your face. Immediately you see this cross-section, and the first question is, why do you have that variation? That's when you now begin to look into it. So is there a justification of the interpretation across the seismic lines? Is there a nearby well point that's called this pull up and push down, that we have this thickness variation across this cross-section? So these are the kind of things you look when you do it, when you look at a cross-section, to be able to look at what doesn't seem right, identify where the variations are and what is causing it, and be able to justify that your model comes up fit for purpose. Also taking key layers through the model to analyze horizontal strategies at different depths in order to ensure consistency with geological layers. You can do pillar quality display. You display your pillar grading. We have, I'm pointing with my laser now. You see 3 grids, the top, mid, and the base grid of a pillar grid. You look at it, make sure there are no spikes or twisted cells that will indicate an issue in the pillar grading process. And when you look at it visually, you'll begin to understand the kind of issues you'll likely encounter even when you start your horizon stratigraphic modeling. So you begin to fix it even before you get to that point. You can also build cell volume visualization and cell geometries. Build the cell volume cell geometries, look at twisted cells, and then you can check for fault intersections following, make sure they are following geological rules. Then look at fault relationships. Verify that the fault relationships are consistent and logical. You can also look at your fault geometries, ensure that fault geometries are realistic and do not, in a sense, exhibit unrealistic zigzag patterns. Then structural models can also be looked at in terms of numerical checks and grid visualization and geological consistency. Look at your fault throw. This will involve analysis, maybe along strike, or analyze the displacement along fault to ensure that it's consistent with geological expectations. Identification of anomalous values, detection of values that may indicate that geological features such as pinch out, erosional surfaces, incorrect fault peaks, zone thickness and variations, and fault block relationship are perfect. So in essence, what this is also pointing us to is that your conceptual depositional model must be at the back of your mind before you start your geological model, right from your data analysis down to your structural and your property modeling. You will make sure that you have a clear conceptual depositional model so that everything, all your data, all your models will point to realization of that conceptual model you have at the back of your mind. As is often said, I don't know who to quote for that. If you can't visualize it in a static model, please don't build it. Make sure you visualize it, understand it, have your local geology, the geology of the environment you're building at the back of your family, at the back of your mind before you start building a static model. So let us move on to property QC. Maybe spend a bit more time here. Having looked at the structural model, we'll take a look at QC method available in use for property models. We'll look at general statistics examples. We'll look at histograms, a brief look at the cross plots, average maps and at maps, and also at average at wells. So let us look at property to data relationships. It is essential to analyze distribution of geological properties within a model, and this will invariably involve checking for any values that deviate significantly from expected ranges, which can indicate errors, anomalous values. Identifying and correcting these anomalous values will ensure your model accuracies. For example, we look at the statistics table that is shown, the 2 statistic table that is shown, one marked consistent with model, one marked inconsistent. The minimum and maximum values shows that this is essentially the same data that we are seeing in both statistics and table. But if we look at the mean and standard deviation, we see that the model titled consistent has a consistent mean from the input data, the upscale data, and the model that was generated, and saw also the standard deviation. But if you look at the table below, you will have differences between the input data, the upscale data, and the final model that was generated. So this is a first pass and look at what you have versus what you started with, and check the consistency of what you have generated. Okay. Property data relationship will also ensure your Francis property relationship will also honor your conceptual model, which we discussed on the last slide. We can also look at trend analysis. You look at your directional trends. So analyzing trends in geological model properties along specific directions helps you in understanding the spatial distribution or continuity of these properties. This analysis may well reveal that the patterns that are consistent with geological processes, such as sedimentation or deposition or tectonic activities. These are two cross plots that are seen, and we're going to see these cross plots in the next slide. So this cross plot is from the porosity and permeability law cross plot, and at the well we can see a good correlation between the two logs. And the next cross plot shows porosity model generated from that data and the permeability model generated from that model. So you cross-plot it to look at the relationship that you end up at the end of the day while using this. And that is what we are looking at in cross-property relationships. So when you cross-plot these properties at your wells, you tend to see a correlation. You expect that correlation to be carried into your model at the end of the day. So this shows that at the end of the day, I have a consistency in the trend of the property that I've generated from this. Now, what you can also look at is the histogram. And for example, above here, you see a histogram plot. This histogram consists of the raw logs, the scaled logs, and also the properties. And visually looking at it, you can see that this histogram is consistent across all the data types that was plotted. But when you look at the second histogram, you can see a clear discrepancy between the raw well data, the upscaled well, and the property represented in blue. You can see a big discrepancy. So looking at this alone shows you that you have an issue already that you need to go back and fix. So crop property relationship can be probability property relationship. It can be any type of relationship, and it can also be rock physics relationships. So let's look at model relationships and cross-block. Initially, we mentioned about your models being consistent with your Francis. Generally, we model our Francis and then bias our properties to our Francis if that is the route that we want to take. So two things we want to show in this slide. We have two examples displayed here. The Francis model is in the middle, and this was used to generate the porosity models on the far left and also on the far right. By visual inspection, using the color bar as a guide, we can just see that the model on the left is more consistent with the Francis model than the model on the right, on my right. So you look at it, we have very low porosities on this side. And when we look at the Francis model, we can see that we have shales on that part. And where we also have good sand quality, according to the color bar that we have, we'll look at, we'll have good porosity. So visually inspecting this model shows us that we have a good correlation between the model on the left and the facies model that we have. And also we have an inconsistent correlation with the model on the right. Now, going back to the cross plots that we looked at, we'll see that this is a well cross plot for the porosity and the permeability. And on the right, you have a cross plot directly from the porosity and permeability of the consistent model, while the cross plot for this model on the right shows that an inconsistent cross plot with the well logs that we have. So we will see that distribution will generally be guided by the models that we have. And by visually inspecting our models and doing some cross plots, we can be able to understand whether we need to go back to the drawing board or move ahead, and also give us that confirmation that our model is fit for purpose. Now, another thing we can do is cross sections. To the bottom right, the figure is a cross section of a fascist model with wells in it, and then the porosity log, of course, colored imposed on it. And to the far left, above and below, you have the models by the fascist. The model that is consistent with the logs that can be seen across at the model cross section is the model on the left with where my cursor is. So this is a porosity model, and imposing these porosity logs on it, you can see the porosity log blending in firmly and fairly into the model. That means there is a flow, there's a center of flow, there's a center of continuity from the logs into the model. But looking at the model below, you can see the logs stand out. So you can see for this well, for example, you can see a higher porosity and the logs, and then surrounded by relatively lower porosity around. So a cross section with the logs along the cross section part clearly tells you whether the original logs you have is blending into the model. And the more you have a blend into the model you constructed, the more you have confidence that the model is consistent with the original data you have. But if you have the model stand out against if you have the standard against your model, that means there's an issue with it. But something we will have at the back of our mind, and very, very critical to this kind of case, is to make sure that you have the same scale, your log have the same scale as your model. More importantly, the color scale of your log is exactly the same as that of your model. This is very critical to make sure that this comparison is apple to apple. And we can't stress that enough. A lot of people have been messed up with this. When you look at it, you've done a good job, but because you're comparing apples to apple, you come across as having not done a good job. So it's something that we should have at the back of our mind. Several of these visual comparison, make sure that you are comparing the same thing, scale to scale, color to color, so that when you display them, you'll be able to notice where you have issues and where you don't have. So the next thing we are going to look at is averages at the wells and averages at the model. So three things are working here now. So we are looking at averages. We are looking at averages at the maps. We are also looking at cumulative distribution functions. We're also looking at a histogram. So I like doing this for the models I run. I mean, in a nutshell, it just shows you where you are in terms of reliability of your model at every point in time. But before we start, remember, for the maps, your color codes must be the same with that of your logs. We can't stress that enough. So this is an average porosity map. well points, averages at well point imposed on the map. Of course, we are taking the average from the top of the reservoir to the base of the reservoir. We're also going to take the average from the top of the reservoir at well to the base of the reservoir. That is the average of the logs. So when you impose these two together, you'll be able to see if they stand out. If the averages at your wells is blending in nicely, like it is with the averages at your map, you have thumbs up that you're doing consistent towards your static modeling. We can also just look at the averages, and that is general statistics. Look at what the averages at your well gives you. For that reservoir interval, remember you're comparing apples to apples, and then compare it with averages at the model. And then take a look at the histogram. What is the histogram say? What is the distribution? Is the distribution between your model and your well logs the same range? For here now, you're now comparing the raw well log, so you may not see the exact one-to-one mapping for your histogram, but you look at your cumulative distribution function. You can see that cumulative distribution function at the well mimics clearly the cumulative distribution function at your model, or vice versa. I mean, the one at the model mimics the one at your wells. So that gives you a boost in the robustness of the model that you've created. Now let's look at another example. Now the porosity example, I brought this in because so that we know that this works for both properties that you distribute by upscaling and distribution across the well, and also properties that you generate with equations. This is an example of a permeability model generated using an equation from a porosity permeability relationship. And this also shows consistency. So whether you are distributing your models using an upscale cells, or you're just using a simple equation from a derived relationship, this form of QC should be able to work across. So you see a consistency between your well averages at the well and averages on your model. A consistency between your wells, the CDF is consistent, and also you see a close relationships across your averages. And this is also to say that the averages must not be a one-to-one average, but you don't expect something to be essentially very far from each other. Now, let's look at a non-consistent model. Now, looking from the far right, you can see that for this particular well here, I mean, this seems consistent, right? This seems consistent. Going to this, it seems consistent compared to the background values that we have in the porosity value. But as you go to the left, where you have most of the data, you can see those averages at the well point standing now starkly against the averages at the well, and that shows you that the consistency issues for these wells at this place, and that gives you, and that tells you to go back and take a look at your modalities for your modeling. You look at the well averages at the well, you may not see a big difference, but when you look at your cumulative distribution of frequencies, you can see a wide variation between the frequencies at your model and the frequency at your well. So this should, in a sense, set off your alarm bells that you should go back and look at these things again. So now, what we need to emphasize is that one type of QC method may not be adequate to be able to tell you that you have issues in your model. So the idea is to bring in as much QC as you can, depending on the data you have, the model you are building, and the time you have to build it. Bring in as much QC method as possible in order for you to be able to have a holistic view of the model that you build and begin to understand where there are issues, and then you move on to go on and begin to begin to fix them. Now you finish your model. These are some practice, a few tips on to how to improve the work quality in your modeling process. And first of all, it is essential that you record all your QC steps that you perform. Maintaining a detailed record of each of your QC steps during your modeling process will include documentation, the method used, documentation of the data analyzed, and also the results that you obtained. Document issues found. Document the issue that you found in the process and the resolutions that you have. It's very essential that you keep a log of any issues that you have identified during your QC checks and the actions that you've taken to resolve them. This will help you in tracking recurring problems in your modeling and also ensure that you address them promptly. So create an audit trail for model versions that you create. In this era, our computing process has become so efficient that it takes you a few minutes to create so many variations of models and so many that it's easy to lose track of the trail of the variations or model variations that you have. So it's essential that you have establish an audit trail that tracks the changes and updates that you make to model versions. This ensures transparency and also accountability, and will allow you an easy review and verification of the resolutions you have in your models. So some KPIs that I would suggest is define the quantitative measure of what a good model is. Now we go back again to our modeling. Essential. Why are we modeling? What data do we have to model? And what time do you have in order to create that model? These three things are essential, and you should have a clear understanding of these three things before you set out for a model. I've been asked several times, how long will it take you to build a model? And my answer has always been, as soon as it's needed. So if you need a model in 2 days, I'll give you a model in 2 days. If you need a model in 1 month, yes, I'll give you a model in 1 month. If you need it in 3 months, better for us to give you a model in 3 months. So what is the difference? The difference is the model you are going to generate in 3 days is not going to have all the trinkets and embellishments of the model that you are going to bring out in 3 months. So determine what it's needed, determine what time you're working with, and determine the kind of thing that can be done. We don't expect the end result to be too far apart, but there are discrepancies. But the longer you have to build the model you have to pack in all the bells and whistles available to you in the model. So track improvements and through modeling iteration. Make sure you monitor the progress and improvements made across different iterations of the models. Of course, this is going to help you identify areas of enhancements and also ensure you have continuous improvements in your model. Make sure there is an acceptable criteria for your final model. If not, you just go on an endless journey of improvements. Set the acceptable criteria and then establish specific criteria that will find that your final model must meet in order to be considered acceptable. Of course, this criteria should be based on the defined KPIs and also ensure the model's readiness for the practical applications. It is good to have your model peer reviewed. You don't know it all. Have people look at your model. For that, it tips on structural review checklist. Develop a comprehensive checklist for peer reviews covering all critical aspects of the model. This ensures a thorough and systematic evaluation. We can also have a subject matter experts involved in that. I mean, involving a subject matter expert and an expert that have relevant history in your model. Have them review your model and give you insights and feedback. So these are invaluable to ensure that your model accuracy and reliability. So in conclusion, a few takeaways. The QC process should be an integral part of the modeling process, not an afterthought. Quality control must be essentially embedded within the entire modeling workflow. This will ensure that each step is properly scrutinized for accuracy and reliability. Both quantitative and qualitative checks are very essential. I mean, when we employ both visual and numerical analysis, we have a comprehensive evaluation of our models and quality. And QC should be performed systematically at every stage of the modeling process in order to help us identify errors and correct them, which will also lead us to more reliable models. And some best practices that we have. We need to stay updated on new techniques. I mean, keep abreast of the latest development and innovation in the QC method in order to enhance our modeling practices. So we need to share experiences with our peers. I mean, engaging with colleagues and industry experts who will help us exchange insights and the experiences. And collaborative learning helps us in refining QC approaches and generally improving modeling process. We also need to adapt method to specific projects that we need to tailor our QC techniques to sort of the unique requirements of each project. This will ensure that the methods used are appropriately applied and effective for specific geological contexts. That's in essence brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. Over to Sam.
Hello, can you all hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. It's been a very, very nice presentation. Next on our agenda is the quiz. Do you have your quiz questions with you, sir?
Yes. So requested that we have a quiz session. Very simple multi-choice questions, and just see how much you can grab from them, and then good luck. Let me know when to start. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you, sir. Samuel, sorry, hold on. Thank you very much, sir, for that. So before we do the quiz, I want to announce again that if you don't have your name correctly written or spelled out on Teams, please do that so that we will not have the challenge of trying to know who this is or who that is. So we'll be picking by name and is first to answer. And we just need one winner. And I think about 10 questions. So please kindly do that. Kindly do that so that we will not have any confusion, because once we check and we can't really figure who that is, we have to pick the next person that answers first. Thank you very much. You can go ahead, Samuel.
All right, so and just to add to what our publicity secretary has said, your answers should be in the chat box, please. Not, you shouldn't speak to answer, just answer in the chat box. Thank you. Mr. Francis, you're first.
All right. How long do you have for each question? Okay, so just let me know when to move on to the answer. All
right. If I may ask, how many questions do you have?
We have 10 questions. Simple,
right,
very simple questions.
30 seconds per question, sir.
All right, so just let me know when to move on. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, you have
first question. All right.
Next question, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Moving on to question number 3. Tricky one.
All right, so next question, sir.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sam, can
Please
I
hold on.
interject?
Okay. Go ahead, Uzama.
So for answering the questions, can they also attach the question number? So for example, for question 4, we have 4, then your answer. So we can be able to differentiate the answers in the chat box.
Moderator.
All right. All right. So I think that is noted. So everybody has to pay attention to that. So you're already doing that. So please let's adhere.
All right. Moving to question number 4. Okay, moving to the answer. Right. Question number 5 coming up. Okay, the answer coming up here. Question number 6. All right, the answer coming up. Question 7. Question 7. All right. Answer to question 7 coming up now. Question number 8. answer coming up. Question number 9. Samuel and Shem, I hope you're keeping track.
Yes.
Yes, I will.
And that is the answer. And then the last question. All right. And that brings us to the end of the quiz session.
All right, Mr.
Over
Francis.
to you, Samuel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis. Yeah, what a lecture it has been. Static model QC, tips of best practices. And we can't overemphasize how important quality control of our static model is, because we know the oil and gas business is an high stakes game. There's no room for error. There's no room for error. And you just shed more light on how important quality control of our static model is before we can make our field development planning or final investment decisions. There needs to be proper quality control. And no one is an island of knowledge. Even the most experienced geoscientist can miss a detail. And you also spoke on having peer review, showing other geoscientists, okay, this is what I've seen, this is what I've done. Let them also take a look. And we thank you very much, sir, for your time and for your knowledge that has been shared with us. Now we'll be moving on to questions and answers. Please, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat box or raise your hands while I call you to ask your question. All right, Mr. Kenichi, unmute and ask a question. Thank you.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Francis, for your tutorial, if I should call it that. It really exposed me to certain gray areas that I initially didn't know. My question is specifically for those of us who are just new into the industry or who have interest in industry. I mean, the young professionals who are still coming up. Now, I discovered during your class on different QC methods, which you talked about the qualitative and quantitative, using visual inspection basically, and statistical and other methods. Now, having understood the different kinds of data input into your different kinds of model, like your seismic data and your well log data, I wanted to ask, what are the different data input that are candidates for maybe your that you can only visually inspect or using statistical methods, and also what relevant technical proficiency would you advise? Because I see you're basically using some statistical terminologies and tools to generate, to analyze and interpret your data set. And obviously there are some little statistical experience that are needed. So I want you to please succinctly highlight those technical proficiency that are needed, to be able to carry out this kind of QC.
Okay, thank you. Kelechi, right?
Yes, Kenichi.
Okay, thank you. I think this is the first step. You being here, you being in the YP, you being in this presentation is a first step in order to gain proficiency. Technically, you need the basics of analysis, statistical analysis. You can see from the presentation, a very large part of what we do is visual. So even the visual can, and without any, just understanding your geologic processes, understanding the geology of the area you're working visually, you can be able to see that there is something wrong with what you're doing, and then you can be able to decide whether to dive in and begin to look for it. But generally, you should be able to understand quite a bit of statistical analysis as pertains to geology and geological processes. An example given to me some time ago, Professor David Obo, a very nice guy. I mean, I had 2 geologic samples. I mean, with the same mean and the same standard deviation. So statistically, those 2 samples are exactly the same. But when you look at the actual data of that sample, you will find that one sample was deposited in another environment, while one was deposited in an entirely different environment. So statistically, you have the same sample, but geologically, they are not the same. So what I'm trying to tell you is that statistics, mathematics, computer science, those are not going to take away your geologic knowledge, which is your base. So every other tool comes to aid you to understand your geology. You're not going to use statistics alone or mathematics alone in order to analyze. Make sure you have those competencies, be able to analyze statistically, mathematically, and even a few of those your softwares or software usage. But make sure that you have your geology interest in you. That is the guide. Geologic processes, information of what you're working, what is the background. Because as you start, like I said, as you start to build a geologic model, at the back of your mind, you must have a conceptual depositional model. That model is what you carry into your geologic model. So while you apply your statistical knowledge, you apply your mathematics, your computer science, make sure everything's come back to everything must support the geology as you know it, as you conceive it, or as you know it should be. So you must know how to navigate your softwares. You must know how to do basic statistical analysis, basic mathematics. But make sure that your base, your geology itself is solid. That is a strong point to be able to now get all other proficiencies. Interacting with your fellow geoscientists, your fellow YPs is also one thing that can be emphasized. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I totally understand everything you said. Your emphasis on having your domain proficiency first, which is in geosciences to start with, and you also talked about having statistical computer science knowledge. But I do understand that initially, but these fields are quite huge. So based on your experience, I was hoping you could. That's why I said you could please succinctly highlight maybe certain areas you think are quite critical, especially in applying them to the oil and gas industry. As you said, data QC to start with. Maybe you could highlight those areas that you have understood from your experience that, okay, this is where you should try and focus your energy on as a geoscientist, because there are certain areas of computer science and statistics that might not be totally utilized or useful immediately at this level, especially as young professionals.
Yeah. So what I avoided is trying to give you a guided statistical or mathematical area of concentration or something like that. That is what I'm trying to avoid. In various aspects of your geomodeling journey, you are going to be confronted with several different statistical usages. averages, standard deviations, and all that. I'm trying to avoid telling you to go and learn this or that or that. Be proficient. During our formative years, we are told, don't get hooked up with one particular software. That's in case of computer science. Make sure you understand the basics, which basically transcend to every other software in geological analysis. Make sure you can pick a software and be able to navigate through the simple processes of creating your static model, if that is what you create, or for geophysicists in interpretation. Make sure you can be able to analyze, to logically follow the steps and itemizing the software and using your intrinsic geologic knowledge. For statistics, I'm also not going to tell you to focus your mind on this aspect of statistics, on this other aspect of statistics. You're going to use almost every aspect of statistics that you have in your arsenal during your geological analysis. For computer science, you're going to be writing a lot of code if that is what needs to be done with your static modeling. So know how to navigate around your course, know how to navigate around your Excel, know how to navigate around your computer languages if you can. These are all the things that is going to, in the end, build up your competency and build up your ability to be able to deliver a good static model. But I don't want to tell you to go and learn this or go and learn that or go and learn. Get your geology first, then get in touch with every aspect of the geology that concerns statistical analysis, mathematical analysis, or even computer language.
Okay, thank you very much.
I see a hand up. Roslyn.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, my name is Roslyn Adizwa, young professional with Anchor Point. Sir, please, I'd like you to throw more light on the average model versus the world model, like the QC between the two of them, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so essentially what we do is to have an average of your data along your well path for the reservoir interval. From the top of your reservoir at the well, that is the well log between the interval of your top and the base of the reservoir you are analyzing, right? So have those data. Of course, your well basically data points along hole. So average of those data points, whether you're talking about your porosity, you're talking about your permeability, you're talking about any data. Once you get that, you create those averages, turn them into points, and color them accordingly, giving them the range of color that you have. Then on your model too, you have an average of your model. So you have the thickness interval average across the thickness interval of your model from the top of your reservoir to the base of your reservoir, the same interval of your wells. So when you have that average, you display it on a map. So that map is what I showed in my slide. So once you display it on the map, then display the average at the wells at those well points. So when you have them using the same color bar, you see the distribution of your properties, average distribution of properties across your reservoir. That will in turn help you to see whether your average is at that well and fits into that distribution. But if you see that average at that well standing out at your well point on that map, you'll already begin to know that there's something wrong, that's something that you need to be looked at. But those are basically average at your well against the average on your reservoir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Demola.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for the meeting. My concern is majorly on, I actually joined very late, so I don't know if the recording will be provided for us to watch over again because I didn't start with the meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Someone.
Yes, thank you, sir. So about recording, so the recording will be available. So just wanted to look out on our social handles for the link when it gets out. So just stay tuned, you surely receive them. And for now, Samuel has been having network challenge, but I'm in here, stepping in.
Okay.
You can go ahead, sir.
Chimeze, I think I see Chimeze. You can go ahead with the question, Chimeze.
Okay. All right. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, please.
All right. So, my question is just centered around feedbacks or questions you do get from your reservoir engineers whenever you furnish them with your static models to progress with their dynamic model. So what are those critical questions they always come back to ask with regards to, let's say, further understanding of the model, or perhaps just to see like a QC from their end to see if they can progress with the static model? But that's just my question from
Okay, the reservoir engineers are our friends, very good friends. A static model is always an iterative process, even within the static modeling domain. The perspective from the reservoir side is also a good input to go back and also tweak your model. Several questions come up after you move the model to the reservoir engineer. I mean, that's why it's an iterative process and you need to work with the reservoir engineer. So several things, several issues can occur. So first of all, your volumes and the reservoir volumes have a wide discrepancy. That's an issue that needs to be fixed, either from you or from the reservoir side. You have cells making more water than it's supposed to be. That's an issue. So there are myriads of questions that comes up during the reservoir simulation. But the ideal, what the process is that you build a model, especially for reservoirs with a history. For the reservoir engineer to be able to match the history already recorded for that reservoir. And then based on that match, be able to make a prediction on future productions and possibly end of life and future earnings. So that match is essential for that prediction to be made. And the issue that normally comes up is when the reservoir engineer is unable to match that history. That's where you need to sit down together and determine where the issues are and what needs to be fixed. 101 thing can cause an issue. Permeability can be an issue. Structure can be an issue. Your cell size alone can be an issue. Although nowadays, I mean, we've developed more computing power, that cell size is not always an issue, but cell size can be an issue. So the the static modeler wants to capture as much heterogeneity as you can in your geometry model in order not to miss as little as possible the information you have. While the reservoir engineer wants to average as much as I can, as long as I can get, as he can get a match. So that normally brings a conflict between the reservoir engineer, which in essence is not a conflict, it's just an understanding of what you've modeled, and what your output is. And at the back of our mind, we should understand what we are modeling. The amount of averaging that goes into a model, take 50 by 50 meter cell model, for example. Just imagine 50 by 50 meter in real life and averaging them and giving them just one property. I mean, that tells you that a lot of averaging has been done and a lot of data has also been lost in that process. And really, there's nothing we can do. We must make do with what we have. And sometimes at the end of the day, you can create models as tiny as you can. It makes no material difference. It just gives you, it just takes more power during the computing for the reservoir engineering. So there are 101 possible interactions between the reservoir engineering and the static model until that aim of being able to match the history for reservoirs that have history and then be able to predict with what you have. So there are 1,001 points of conflict. You have your averaging method, you have your cell size, you have your porosity and permeability, you have your water saturation. So you have several points of difference between the two, but you need to sit down with always sit down with your reservoir engineer, understand their pattern of modeling, and then when you work to be able to deliver what is usable to the reservoir engineer. Thank you.
All right, so any other question for Collective D, and I hand over to the Publicity Secretary. All right, in the absence of questions, once again from myself, oh, okay, we have a question, sorry. Pelumi, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir Francis, for the wonderful presentation. My name is Besson Chris Olakweli. I'm a student from Federal University Lafayette. Sir, I don't know, in your favor, if we can go back to the slide when you're talking about the average model versus the well-consistent model, and you were showing us from the maps. I did not really understand because I was not seeing much difference except the figures. I was not seeing much difference when you're showing us the model and the difference with the consistent one and the inconsistent one.
Okay. All right. Can you all see the slides?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right. So let us go to. So I basically presented three slides. One for porosity consistency, second one probability consistency, and then you have the one that shows what it may look like when it is inconsistent. Can you understand? Hello.
Oluwapelumi, are you on the call?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm on
yes,
the call.
yes. So, okay. So let's just walk between these last two. So you can see the a value at 12 points. You can see these values at 12 points. Then you can see the values, the average values of the map. So you're looking at the values at the map against the values at the well points. And if those values at the well point stand out, that means at the well point you have a different value than you have at the map. It means, and then based on that, you are trying to recreate what you have at the well points across the reservoir. It means that what is at the well points is different from what you have generated. For example, now let's look at the inconsistent model. You can see this value at the well points. Let's say maybe around 18%, right? But the background value, that is the value at your property, is reading 20% or so, right? Look at this too. You can see your background value reading around 20%, that is the yellow. While at one point, you're reading something below 18%. That shows you that this model you've created is inconsistent with the values at the wells. So this is a visual inspection that gives you that idea that something needs to be fixed. But of course, like I said, it is very, very important that you have your value color intervals finely defined, both consistent between the model and the at the well points. If not, you're not comparing apples to. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Francis. It's much clearer now. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, someone.
All right, Mr. Francis, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the knowledge shared. We really appreciate, on behalf of myself, the executives of NAPE Young Professionals, and every young professional on this call, we say thank you very much. And we look forward to learning from you another time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, Mr. Abio, you have the phone.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Please confirm you can hear me and you can see my screen, Samuel.
Yes, we can, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, sir, for this. Like someone said it's tutorial because of course, you're really a good teacher. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Mr. Chinazo Francis Ejeke, thank you so much, sir. So, my name is Abioye, and I'll be making the announcement. I'm the publicity secretary for NAPE YP. Yeah, so like we used to do, meet your executive. Yeah, from the lead, you know already. I heard someone call him president. He's the NAPE YP lead, Mr. Oluwaseun Ogundipe. Then, you know, Betel, we have our welfare Lighton, we have Abel, which is general secretary, and we have Daniel Abe, who is the FinSec, and we have Uche, who is the provost, and myself, the publicity secretary. Yeah, so these are the programs we need to look out for this May. Another technical series like this, and a mentor hangout. So this month, 6th of April was World Geology Day. So we're all out, went to Lufasi Nature Park, and I tell you, it was really awesome. Yeah, you have pictures of attendees, and you can see our president-elect at the center holding the cake. And she was all out to celebrate with us. So in case you were around that day, this was a way to also, you know, to bring back memory. And in case you were not there, this to also tell you that any next outing we're having, you need to be there. So these are pictures. Hello, I'm a geoscientist, and these are pictures of the event. Yes. Okay, then pictures here. If you see yourself, you could just smile. I know you're seeing yourself. It's all right. Then, of course, that day, I'm tempted to say someone should unmute and, you know, give us that song, that particular song that our tour guide was giving us that day. We are going on a tour. Memories, right? So yeah, we have you know, some of the animals all we have here, and like we know it's a nature park. So we saw some monkeys, we saw pangolins, and I would love you to hear from some of the attendants. So let's just listen.
Hey everyone, happy.
Confirm you can hear the sound. Can you?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Thank you very much.
Geologist Day. I'm Ayomide Daramala, a geophysicist at Harvard Geosolution. I'm live here at Lufasi Nature Park, and we are here celebrating the Geologist Day as NAPE YP. Today was really interesting. We took a tour around the whole place, and we got to understand why these trees are planted. Some of these trees are 25 to 30 years already. It was really nice. It was a really nice experience. I liked the cake, the food, the friends, and everything. And we were blessed to have the president-elect with us as well. It was a really fun experience. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Testimony Adamu, and I'm a geoscientist. And today I'm here at Lufasi Nature Park to celebrate the World Geology Day with NAPE YP. Today has been like really fun. We played games, charades, but this time we used geology words, things like faults, fault seal analysis. Then we had the honor of going around the park. We saw different trees, animals, pangolin, and a lot of other things like that. So it's really fun, connecting with young people. The president-elect honored us with our presence, and we ate cake. It was really fun. It was really fun, and I highly recommend that.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Happy Geologist Day. I'm Ayomide Daramala.
All right. Yeah. So, like I said, just to bring back memories and, a pointer to let us know that, yes, we do the field work, we do everything, but we also have fun. Yeah. So that's a beautiful cake. And you can see the NAPE, some of the past executive and the current ESCOs of NAPE YP alongside the PE. That's Mrs. Jumoke, Olajumoke Cecilia. So yeah, I know you must have been seeing these flyers on NAPE, social handles. So please, I would love us to enroll as a mentor and as a mentee, rather. As a mentee, you can enroll. You can just use this link. Use the link here. You can go back to social handles and follow through and make sure that you enroll and get a mentor. Are you with me? You can see the, look at the great, mentors we have here, people that are willing, to mentor young professionals, and for sure that these people have, years and wealth of experiences. Yeah, so, and also these two to YP, you can always nominate. You can do your nomination as far as you are an active member. You understand? That is, your membership due is up to date. So you can always participate as a YP member. So yeah, our last recordings, our recordings are always on YouTube. You can always go in, subscribe to our YouTube channel, then always look out for videos, recordings that we upload, just like we're having today. You'll find them all on YouTube. Yeah, so then we also want you to look out for April technical meetings, Port Harcourt chapter, a novel technique for predicting force AVOs, a rock physics and seismic invasion based approach applied in Niger Delta. Yeah, so I want us to look out for this 29th of April. Then also Okaweri chapter also be having theirs by May 15. So just keep this date down, So then finally, please, we know, right, that, we have been singing this, we have been saying it. So please, if you are not, or if you are not up to date, so please, I want you to pay up. Student membership is 2,000 naira yearly. Active membership, which also include YP, is 12,000 naira. So if you're an associate, please also 12,000 naira. And if you're a corporate member, of course, 50,000 naira. And you can always reach out to Mr. Mayowa. This is his email address and his phone number. And if you want to pay, our account number still remain the same, UBA Bank. So you can see it all on the screen. So finally, so just hear from your PS of the secretary before I hand it over to Mr. Sheon.
Hi everyone, my name is Abiyo Banjoko and I am the NAPE YP Public Secretary. So today we are outside. And when I mean we're outside, we're really outside. We had fun here at Lufasi. We played game. We saw, everything they had here, animal, beautiful monkeys. And in fact, we heard tales, about these monkeys, these animal, beautiful tales. So, and I tell you, geologists, we are not just known to go to the mountain, to check rocks. We also have fun. So for the next outing, make sure you are here with us. I want to see you guys. So thank you very much and stay tuned. And follow us on every social media. We love you.
All right, yeah. So thank you. Like I said, follow us. Follow us. If you are not following us, please follow us. Follow us, please follow us. I'm saying, and I keep ringing the bell. You understand? So please follow us. We want you to follow us on every, of our social handles. So now I want to announce the winner for our quiz before I invite Mr. Sheun to round it up. So drum rolling, drum rolling. I want to start seeing reaction before I announce. I want to start seeing reaction before I announce. If I don't see reaction, I will not announce. So let me see the reactions. Okay, okay. So we have 10 winners, and number 1 is Uzoma Uboresimi. I know I've murdered the name. Apologies. Uzoma God's power. So that's his name. Then we have Benga Lawal. Then we have Mutali Badmos. Then we have Precious Akpan. We have Anthony Ifediora. Then we have Beson Peace. Then we have David Chukwu. Then we have Okon Promise. Then we have Additional Munirat. And we have Madwa Buchi Ogu. So please, if you know you're a winner, so please, I'll put my number in here, or you can also reach us on every of our handles. So please reach us between now and Tuesday. Please, between now and Tuesday. Please reach us between now and Tuesday. So, and of course, you've won something, cash prize. So, all right, Mr. Shehu, you can come on board and have this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Abi, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Thank you so much. I want to say a big thank you. Thank you to our speaker for today. Thank you so much for creating time to do this with us. We really, really appreciate your effort. We appreciate the knowledge and every interaction you've given to us today. Thank you so much. I want to thank each and every one of you for being present here. We really appreciate your presence. You could have been doing something else on this Saturday, but you chose to be here today. We thank you so, so much. And to our moderator for today, Samuel, thank you so much for moderating this session. I appreciate your service to the community and to every single person behind the scene. Some members of the technical committee. I see some of you on the call. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. And to the winners, congratulations. And I want to say thank you to our speaker as well, who has decided or who has volunteered, who has been so generous to support with some gift vouchers to all the winners for today. Thank you so much, Mr. Ejeke, for doing this. Abioye has made a lot of announcements. All I can say is thank you. Watch out, follow us on our social media platforms so that you can get up to date on the spot information about our activities. I know a lot of us, celebration will continue. I see some of us on the call who are celebrating their birthdays today. Special shout out to Shegun Akimuda. I know today is your birthday. I see you on the call. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much to everyone, and do have a restful weekend.